enough Canadian presence to secure the Bob man, the radio, so on and so forth. For us, it was great because when we worked with the Omelette, they gave us free rein to do the kind of patrolling that we wanted to do and allowed us to actually interact and be effective in our role with the local population. But the key aspect of making it work was the fact that we had a shared goal, and that facilitated that, whereas we didn't when we went out with the various companies. They had a particular goal in mind, and we were just baggage that was along for the ride, and because they didn't perceive us as bringing anything to the table, we were completely disregarded. And so we had very, very effective collaboration when we worked with small organizations, and therein lies a lesson for partnering. Be careful, it's the Canadian-American elephant and the mouse sort of being in bed together scenario. I mean, you're going to be careful when you partner with an organization significantly larger than yourself. Your interests aren't going to be considered.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, because I heard you, even within that, there was trust,
yes,
there was commitment, and there was shared philosophy.
Oh, exactly.
Along with the shared goal. And that's really what you get. If you start to clarify your philosophy, like what you all believe in, it usually leads to that shared goal making. And I have a whole visual about piggies in a blanket now. That was awful. But anyways.
If I may, with regards to shared philosophy, one of the things that also facilitated that was our ability to sit down and, like, which one of the keynote speakers was it that was talking about trying to leave the slinky? We were able to engage with the guys on a daily basis, and because there were only 4 of us, we developed a very close relationship that allowed them to understand us and us to understand them that wasn't present when we worked with the battle group.
And I really believe it. I'm all for technology, but you got to do face-to-face, and you emphasize that face-to-face meeting. You can do technology after, like distance, but the most successful ones I've been involved in is when people can meet face-to-face and do at least some of their communication, especially the initial piece, face-to-face, and then enhance it with electronic, because I know we can't all be in the same place all at the same time. Can I get another example?
What I was going to suggest is to take the partnership and to put all the elements, many of which you've talked about, and put it in some written form. I don't mean any kind of a 20-page legal document, but a 2 or 3 page terms of reference, memorandum of understanding, or terms of the partnership, so that it's not based on verbal understandings, it's all laid on paper in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in slide 323. Yeah. Oh, surprise! Anybody have one that they could share? And it didn't work so well. And let's just not mention any names, but why didn't it work well? Anybody have one that didn't? Okay.
You can't hear what people don't say. I find that this is true with any
Say that again.
You can't hear what people don't say. And I mean, it's been touched upon a couple of times earlier, but regardless if it's a professional partnership, relationship, it's always the same. As soon as there's more than one person involved, I'm not a mind reader. I'm not going to be able to know what you're thinking, even though I'd like to be able to tune into every little nuance and subtlety in the tones of voice, unless it's clear. And maybe it's just, I need, like you said, have it clear so that there is no confusion, there is no misunderstandings. And so if you feel that it's not working, then you have to say something, or otherwise people aren't going to know.
And that's a really good one. And I'm going to sort of go on and on about communication again, but it's very true. You can't hear what people don't say. I love that. And asking questions. There's nothing wrong. If you're, let's say it's a new partner and you're not quite so sure, you know how you can get into a rhythm with people you know, but people you don't know, it's okay to say, clarify that. Can I ask you more questions about, I'm not sure I know what exactly you mean by that. Or when I talk about assessment, I mean this, this, and this. Is that what you mean? So even clarifying those terms, and then we'll talk about document, document, document. So we're gonna go on. I'll give one exact coordination partnership example that we engage in. It's around Family Literacy Day, and everybody's happy with their roles. We do the coordination of the event. We find the location, which happens to be at Conestoga Mall, a local shopping mall in our area. We make those contacts. We visit, you know, we contact our partners, and we're lucky to have the same 7 coming back. And each time we debrief, everybody feels good about the event because they know exactly what's required, show up on the day, have an interactive booth, they know the hours, they know the expectations, and they're happy with the level of engagement. In that case, we are doing more of the decision making, of the resource provision. But we count on them to be there. It wouldn't be much of a family literacy day if it was me in a booth, even though I am scintillating. I can't possibly, man it for 8 hours. So I count on my staff, and we count on our community partners. But in that case, we're doing the coordination role, and they're happy with the engagement. To me, that's a successful partnership. If somebody was unhappy with that balance, then we'd need to have to revisit it. But it's an example of one that's lower down the ladder. But it doesn't mean that the ones lower down the ladder are any less good. As I said, there's just different levels, and that's just an example of one that works. Okay, this is the classic Psych 101 group dynamics. Are people familiar with that? The forming, storming, norming. I just love that rhyming. Performing, adjourning, or reforming. I coordinate a literacy service planning committee of 4 agencies, and every time we have a new person, we go back through the forming, the storming, and then the norming. And I think this is a good example. The next slide's going to be sort of the partnership cycle. But keep that in mind. I don't know about you, but I've never been in a group that didn't go through this stage. It might happen fast. If you guys facilitate groups, you see it in the groups you facilitate. They have to get to know one another. They have to hash out things. They have to get the explicit and the implicit rules. Where do I put my purse? Is it okay if we insult each other? It works for Janine and I when we get together, but maybe not for other people. You have to, it's those ground rules that you often, document at the beginning of a group or a class. And then, of course, once you get those in place, you can then do the work that you need to do together because you do understand one another. So I always keep that one in mind. So the partnership development cycle, after extensive research, and I do mean that in not a facetious way, it kept coming back for me to the same 4 steps. I've seen 10 steps, I've seen 5, I've seen 6, but really it was all about when we're trying to develop a partnership, who, how, what, and so what. It always came back to these. If you're doing an ongoing program, you cycle through these. This is a classic strategic planning in a way. Who's out there, how are you going to work together, and then you evaluate it. And we're going to explore each of these steps. So who? Looking around the community. So you've got a partnership idea. Maybe it's a special event. And you're thinking, who should we get involved with? Want to raise our profile and really make this a big splash. Maybe it's around Family Literacy Day or something, or the new Essential Skills Day. So you may want to look for people that are very opposite or very complementary. It really depends on what you're going to be doing. What informal relationships can you kind of mine? How can you network? Maybe there's a couple, the 7 degrees of separation. Are there people that are a few steps out, but you know the in-between people that you can network with? And then you get those closer. You had said, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Robin, sorry.
Robin mentioned about the mouse and the elephant. And that's certainly an issue. If you're a smaller organization and somebody else is a bigger one or medium-sized. So how can you bring those together to enhance whatever it is, your special event, your program, whatever? You can have, I think some of the best things are the tentative informal meetings. Let's just chat about this. I got an idea. What are you thinking about this idea? Right there, you're going to know if there is even interest or capacity to move forward with it. It doesn't hurt to fish. So before you start chatting people up, know yourself. And again, the Frank and Smith Partnership Handbook has an excellent readiness tool that you can take a look at internally and say, are we really ready to partner? And that may be a good exercise to go through if you're considering quite a large, heavy investment kind of partnership. Let's say it's going to take a lot of risk, a lot of responsibility, a lot of resources. You want to make sure your ducks are in a row and internally. So how does it fit into your mission? Are you experiencing mission drift? Is this really far away from what you're doing? I got into this baby literacy initiative. And at first I thought, you know, they're cute babies, right? They smell good. I love the tops of babies, the little heads. Love that. Love the smell of them. But you know what? Where I'm in an adult literacy network, and yes, we do family literacy, the emphasis is on the adults. And I felt like we were drifting, and the partnership wasn't working. And so I withdrew from that, because when I started to look at it, I thought, I can't offer as much as they're asking. And you know what? It's not quite in line with who we are as an organization. Why do we need the partnership? You don't partner just to partner because it's cool. You know, it comes with a nice outfit and a bag. You know, what are the benefits? What are you bringing to them? You should know those WIFMs, what's in it for me, so that when you chat someone up, you're prepared to say, this is what you might be getting out of it, and this is what we hope to gain by working with you. Again, it's that explicit that people can't hear what you don't tell them. Oh, okay, it's coming up. So potential partners, I'm sure you can all think of them. Sometimes we don't think about perhaps different professional associations or union groups. It depends on the relationship you have in your particular community. Maybe there's other ones that you can connect with, or even a trade association or a business group that you'd like to reach out to. Again, maybe you could do some networking and bring them into that event, that program, issue building. Who needs to be involved? Take a look at, maybe you've got a couple core partners together and you're starting to chat about what this initiative is that you're going to be doing. So start to map out who needs to be in what position. You may want to coordinate some partners, but collaborate with others. So the collaborators may be in here, but you may say, you know what, we need, going back to picking on Jim again, you know, we need Jim's tables and chairs for our event. So he may be a resource support partner. Or the peripheral, how about all those people that you inform about your event? So start to map out who needs to be in these concentric circles. It also, again, widens your impact and your influence. Connection strategies. Try to be friendly, and I know you are, from our in common circle. Not to mention effervescent and dynamic. I can feel that coming off of you. So, again, back to the exploratory meetings. Why not? If they say no, that's okay. You know where they stand, and you can move on. Perhaps you send a letter or an information package that says, I'm interested in partnering. If you received a letter that said, I'd like to partner with you, how many people would be kind of like, oh, that sounds good to me? Kind of interested? Okay, people don't want to date? I would be interested. I'd at least be curious enough. Doesn't mean I'd follow through on, you know, depending on what they're looking for. But it's just saying, wow, we view you as a valuable asset. That's kind of nice. Again, bandwagon calls. Those are the things where, you know, you read an article in the paper, a local business in my area had said they had started a whole new employee training program. So I just took the opportunity to say, I see that you really value education in your workplace, and I sent them some workplace education material. That's it. That's just the one small step. Maybe in the future, I'll try to involve them in a different way, give some information. So look at the media, look at sort of what's happening locally. Is there something you can link up with? So building connection. So time to get to know one another. This goes to the trust. I can't underestimate those icebreakers. You know, the irritating ones that people make do at meetings. You know, I went to this highly formal committee that was hosted by a regional councillor. Very formal. There's probably about 20 people around the table. It was all focused on welfare and how that was being implemented in the employment supports around welfare. But you know what? I admired the facilitator, this regional councillor, because every meeting she started with some sort of informal icebreaker. And at first you're going, oh, come on, you know, time, tick, 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 we got a busy agenda. I'll never forget those icebreakers. You know, what was your favorite childhood cereal? And I'll tell you, once I found out that the senior manager of the Community and Social Services enjoyed Sugar Crisp as a child, It made a whole difference to me. You know, it was something that we could all laugh about and get to know. So I was more